Einhander introduces the player to an ongoing war set in the distant future between the people of the Earth and the Moon. You take up the fight against the forces of Earth and are tasked with invading unmarked regions, as well as gaining possession of various special weapons that will help turn the tide of the battle. It's essentially a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. There are a ton of levels to get stuck into, as well as several machines in which to use and unlock upon completing the adventure. As you would expect with most shoot-'em-ups, the main focus is upon the diverse set of weapons that are at your disposal, and Einhander is no exception. From machine guns, rocket launchers to aircraft-sized energy swords, there's a lot on offer, which is sure to satisfy fans of the genre. Now, achieving high scores is the order of the day, and is handled through the multiplying system, which sees the player having to chain together as many defeats as possible without stopping. This aspect will keep you on your toes and propels Einhander into something that should be experienced by everyone. Shaolin is a somewhat obscure fighter with an incredible emphasis upon the world of martial arts. There are several modes in which to get stuck into, but the real meat and potatoes of the experience is the main campaign. It tasks the player with creating a character, along with choosing a style of martial art and developing it over the course of the adventure. You start out as a child, and through visiting various dojos and masters, you grow up as your skills develop. Living from day to day, you have to take care of your character, both mentally and physically, through eating correctly, as well as training, which forms the basis of the gameplay. Scattered throughout the environments are inns and stores that stock an assortment of items which will help the player fulfill this goal. Shaolin is a truly unique experience that would make a welcome addition to anyone's collection. Rapid Reload is essentially a run and gun that sees the player taking up the role of either a young man known as Axel, or rather a young girl known as Ruka. Each of them have their own distinct abilities that will help you traverse each level and overcome the onslaught of enemies the game throws at you. To even the odds, a whole host of weapons are at your disposal, ranging from machine guns to pistols, but one aspect that sticks out is the inclusion of a grappling hook that helps the player evade incoming dangers. Now, the whole experience shares many similarities with the likes of Gunstar Heroes, which in all honesty is one of the finer run and gun titles available, so for fans of it, Rapid Reload will instantly feel familiar. One unique aspect that sets it apart though is its scoring mechanic, that heavily ties into how much damage you deal out, due to each enemy dropping points upon being defeated. As you collect these points, your damage will slowly ramp up and give you an edge, but if you're hit, it's back to square one. Rapid Reload really represents some of the best run and gun action on the PlayStation 1, so if you haven't played this one yet, now is the perfect time to jump into it. Bishi Bashi Special is an experience full to the brim with an extremely fun and addictive collection of minigames. Ranging from the hilarious to downright bizarre, the game takes full advantage of the PlayStation controller and tasks the player with using it in a variety of ways in which to take part in each activity. It shares similarities with the likes of Point Blank, albeit without the light gun, and introduces each task with a short tutorial before it starts. You'll find yourself dodging barrels, jumping to the beat of the music, shooting baddies, eating food and shaking cans of soda until they burst. With over 24 activities available, there's plenty to get stuck into, and to top all of this off, each one can be enjoyed with another player, making Bishi Bashi Special a perfect game for sharing with friends. Threads of Fate follows the exploits of two characters known as Rue and Mint. They are both searching for an elusive object known as the Relic, which possesses the power to tremendously change their lives for the better. The player has the choice between using either of the characters for the adventure, which will last around 10 hours for each, which in all honesty incredibly adds to the replay value. A diverse set of locations such as mountains, forests, and even dreamscapes comprise the adventure, which are home to a wide array of enemies in which to overcome. The battling system in Threads of Fate is a real highlight, which ties into the various customization options which are available, such as equipment that can affect your proficiency within each encounter. It's a nice break from the various games Square produced at the time, so if you're looking for a short RPG that is easy to jump into, but at the same time harder to master, Threads of Fate would be one not to pass up. Originally appearing in the arcades, TVGS is a fighting game that takes many characters from the popular Final Fantasy series and pits them against one another. The action is incredibly fast-paced and takes place across several fully interactive environments that offer changes in elevation as well as the use of objects, which adds an extra dimension to the gameplay and strategy involved in taking on enemies. But the highlight of the experience has to be the sheer diversity in the ways which you can play the game. Several modes are available, from standard arcade to versus and training, but the standout feature has to be the quest mode, which takes on the form of a hack and slash and tasks the player with traversing Diablo-style dungeons. It's a neat little way to break up the action, and it offers something truly unique to those who choose to put time into the game, and by doing so, several minigames and a ton of extras can be unlocked. If this one passed you by, it will not disappoint, and fully deserves a place in your library. The Legend of Dragoon is an RPG that sees the player taking up the role of Dart, a young man that is plunged into an ongoing conflict between two warring factions of the kingdom. To be honest, the story isn't nothing that hasn't been explored before, and probably won't blow you away, but what will is the gameplay. The battling system is turn-based in nature, but offers a slight twist in the form of quick-time events known as additions that appear upon carrying out attacks. It's a neat little way to keep the player engaged during long battles, and also gives them the opportunity to deal some extra damage and even chain attacks if carried out correctly. As you would expect with most RPGs, over the course of its duration, you'll be learning several abilities, gaining access to new equipment and armor, as well as leveling up your party, developing them into an unstoppable force. Although not the best RPG on the system, it's definitely one that deserves a look, especially for fans of the genre. As the name suggests, LSD Dream Emulator is an absolutely bizarre experience. It all comes from the mind of its creator, Hiroko Nishikawa. The game is based on the developer's own personal experience and dreams, which were collected over the course of 10 years in a journal. Now, gameplay-wise, there's not that much in the way of intricate systems or mechanics. The player is not tasked with any specific goal in which to achieve or obstacles to overcome. It's an experience all about exploration. It takes place from a first-person perspective, with players being presented a diverse set of worlds in which to traverse. Each of these worlds serves as a dream, and they're all interconnected through certain objects within each. Through this, it is possible to jump from dream to dream and discover the more bizarre environments the game offers. It won't be for everyone, but LSD Dream Emulator is something that should definitely be played to fully appreciate. Cartier: The World of Fate is a tactical role-playing game developed by some of the finest minds behind the Final Fantasy series. Its journey is split up into separate parts that intertwine and tell the tale of two people forever bound by fate. The action takes place on a grid, with the player having the ability to control phantoms through the use of magical cards known as Cartier. These phantoms grant the user incredible magical abilities and a means in which to take on the several evil forces that threaten the kingdom. As you would expect with most tactical RPGs, the player has a wide variety of options at their disposal that all have their place within the gameplay. Over the course of the adventure, you'll find yourself leveling up and further honing your skills as you expand your collection of cards and ultimately bring about change within the kingdom. Although not the best tactical RPG on the system, Cartier: The World of Fate still deserves a look and is bound to surprise fans of the genre. Jade Cocoon is an RPG that sees the main protagonist, known as Levant, following in his father's footsteps in order to become a cocoon master. The game is set in a lush, vibrant world which is covered in a thick forest, with the inhabitants living within secluded villages scattered throughout. Also occupying this world are small bugs known as minions, which can be captured and harnessed to use in battle. In all honesty, Jade Cocoon shares a lot in common with the likes of Pokemon, with each minion having their own set of abilities and elemental advantages as well as weaknesses. But the real highlight of the experience has to be its narrative that explores some very touching themes such as family, loyalty and hopelessness. It's an unforgettable adventure that will surely stick with you long after the credits have rolled.